Hello and welcome to part 8. In this video, we will be talking about functions. So what exactly are functions? Well, throughout our programming or throughout our code, we might want to call a certain function or a certain list of commands at a certain point at any time instead of having to rewrite them over and over and over again. So what we can do is create a function. And how we do that is by typing in def, and then we can name our function whatever we want to name it. Let's say we want to name it hello, okay? And then you can type in whatever you want in here. If your function doesn't need an input, so this is basically our input to the function. If it doesn't need an input or a variable that's within it, then you don't need to use that. You can just skip it and make sure you have your colon. And then let's say I want to just print hello world. Okay, now if I were to just call this function and all I need to do to call the function is just type in hello or whatever the function name is, followed by the parentheses, and it will automatically just call that function. So for example, right now, if I didn't call the function and I just ran the program, it would do nothing because it saved it as a function and the print statement is within the function. So you're not telling the program to do anything until you add the statement to actually call that function, which is this. Now, if I were to call it, I get hello world back. So I can call this whenever I want throughout my program. Now let's do something complex. Let's say I want a definition and I want um, some sort of even number checker. So I want to see if the number is even or not sometime throughout my program. So I'm just going to call this even, and then I'm going to give some sort of variable so that it has an input to work with. I'm just going to say x. You can put whatever value you want, and then later on, just work with that. And don't forget your colon, that's really important. So definition of even. Now, how do we define this? And what we do is if x modulus 2 is 0, print or return. So we can use something called the return function, which will just return it into your code. It doesn't print it, but it puts it straight into your code. So I can say return um, even, right? So it will return that it is even, else return odd. Whoops. Make sure that you are using string. You can use either um, quotation marks or apostrophes. Okay, now I'll just capitalize it. I like everything caps. The first letter. Okay, so now that you have that, if you were to give a value x, it will check through it and it will return either even or odd, but it won't necessarily print it. Now, what I mean by that, for example, if I wanted the even checker and then I type in maybe let's say 6, right? And or to print it, I don't get anything back because I'm not printing it. Sorry, I ran the program. Sorry about that. So if I were to print this, now if I were to say print even 6, right? Now I will get either even or odd back. And there we go. I get even. So it shows me that my value is even. So I can store this within a variable. I can do something else. I can use that value, manipulate it, and I don't have to keep writing this program if I wanted to check multiple different numbers. Obviously, I could have used a list and iterated through it, but let's say you couldn't use a list for some reason and you wanted to check multiple different values. You can just create that function here, as you can see, and then type in multiple different things. So even 5 is 5 even. Let's say is even whatever huge number. You don't know if it's even for some reason. You can type that in, and then obviously you want to be able to print them. So, or you can save it as a variable. So I'll just save this as a1 or something, just something random. Um, and then A2 or what something, and then I can print both of them out. So I can just say print A1, comma A2, so it'll print both of them at the same time, even odd. So I get even odd. Or I can just say print one A1 and then make another print same A2 if you don't want it in the same line. So that is definitions in a gist. So those are functions that we can use multiple times throughout our code and we can call upon them. Now, what if I wanted to create an application where I wanted to be able to use this Python file with another file? We'll be talking about that in the next video.